Companies like Sony often have a problem. Their old games competing with their new games, and like Sony, when your brand is built off those old games having amazingly strong IP, well, you end up losing a lot of money because your average sale price plummets. And today's story is Sony's attempt to fix that problem. You see, while headlines of scalpers buying up PS5 anniversary editions were dominating, something else happened, something that very few noticed. See, the State of Play announced Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, and when I reported it, I tried to save you some money. What you'd do, right, is you'd buy the original complete edition of the game, and then you'd hand over your $10 whenever the remaster comes out, so you end up paying less. The bad news is that Sony were onto us. The good news, well, I'm onto them, and I've got backup from today's sponsor, which is dead handy and an absolute lifesaver. The Ugreen 130-watt Nexo 2000 mAh power bank. Look, I put this in my bag every day. I take it pretty much everywhere. It is super light for the performance that it's got, and the shape makes it so easy to pack. It's only 480 grams, and it's got a lovely display. Lets you check how full it is, what it's outputting across the two USB-Cs and one USB-A, and you can even do the neat things like looking at the currents and the voltages or what output you're getting from your charger. And to top it off, it's got a pretty cute robot face, but it'll even give you 100 watts on the C1 port and 30 watts at the same time. That lets me say charge my phone and my laptop at max speed simultaneously. And capacity-wise, that's enough to charge my iPhone 15 4 times. Now, I of course support the various fast charging protocols and are full of safety protections like thermal guard, and it's even tested to retain over 80% capacity after 1,000 charge-discharge cycles. So, amazing specs, amazing price to performance, but for me it's just experience. This charges in 2 hours, I pop it in my bag, and no matter where I go, I can just trust that I've got power. If there's no plug at the coffee shop seat, that's completely fine. And for the likes of Gamescom and BlizzCon, like doing convention work, utter lifesaver. It's such an upgrade, which is why it's in my EDC. And of course, there's also a 12,000 mAh version that is an absolute price to performance king if you don't need as much capacity. The good news is you can pick yours up and check them out at the links down below. So thanks to Ugreen for sponsoring. Let's get into the video. First, the PS5 shenanigans. Sony doubled the price of Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition. Yep. 2x. It is now $39.99. It used to be $19.99. Of course, if you add in the $10 upgrade price, and you get $49.99, which is the remaster's RRP. And it is a bad look. Zero Dawn Complete Edition was part of the PlayStation Hits collection, and every other game in that collection currently retails $19.99. And to make things feel worse, none of this was talked about publicly in any way. You just would go onto the store and find that that's what the game would cost, and you wouldn't really know any better. What they did here is abundantly clear. It is an artificial price hike. It's just them trying to collect more money. And the thing is, it could actually get them in some trouble. You see, recently Sony stopped selling digital games in retail stores. You can no longer buy game codes. The only place to get a digital PS5 game is the Sony store. And when this happened, regulators in the United Kingdom were actually suspicious. They thought that this could be getting in a monopolistic direction, so I have to wonder how they feel about this. Sony using their complete control over the sales of Zero Dawn digitally to artificially hike the price. Because the fair market value per Sony of this game was $19.99, along with everything else in the PlayStation Hits collection. And if the upgrade is worth $10, which is what they charge for it, then surely the fair value of the new version of the game is $29.99. Of course, it's not. That's why the price increase here with the original Complete Edition feels a little bit artificial. Thing is, this is far from the only strange thing that's happened. Next, we gotta take a look at PC. Well, the good news is us PC gamers have not missed out on the fun, and it's actually more aggressive here. You literally cannot buy Horizon Zero Dawn on Steam, Epic, or standalone. There is only one way you can buy it, and that is the new Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered bundle. Yeah, that's the only way. That, of course, does include the current Complete Edition and the remaster, and it costs $49.99. Now, there are still cases where you can buy the original Complete Edition because those game keys exist. Sony can't just go and delete all of the game keys that are being sold in other places like, say, GOG, but all of this reveals exactly how they think and their aggressive approach to pricing. Of course, they know their games have got strong long-tail sales, so remakes and remasters can keep the average sale price high for longer and longer. But of course, on PC, it is just a little bit spicier. 170 countries just lost the official ability to play this game because all PlayStation games on PC will have the PSN element for linking your PSN account to get trophies, friends lists, and that sort of thing. The PS blog confirmed this, and it does mean that people in the 170 countries are left out. And even worse, they kind of won't be able to get it at all, because the original complete edition doesn't exist. It's only in the remaster. Now, yeah, there is the saving grace where game keys for the original exist. You can buy those on GOG or others, but at its core, we're seeing how PlayStation intends to bring the PlayStation model done on the PlayStation Digital Store over to PC and to have the level of price control that they are used to having. And it's from here that their strategy begins to become clear. To check in with other games, Helldivers 2 took a beating for PSN, but it's now recovered. It's got recent reviews at 81%, and the latest patch has actually led to a higher baseline in players. Ragnarok got slammed for PSN launch, but it's recovered. It's at 77% now. A modder even made a tool to circumvent PSN, and it surged so quickly in popularity that he took it down because he was afraid of retribution from PlayStation. But of course, check in with the graph and you can see negative reviews are slowing faster than the positives are rising. So that does mean it's getting more and more positive. And then Ghost of Tsushima, well, it's at 92%. That is barely a dent, and that's a game that needed PSN for multiplayer that released when the whole story was exploding. Now all of this shows something. It tips us off to their real strategy. So let's understand what PlayStation are actually doing. A lot of enthusiasts are pretty angry at PlayStation. It could be the things I'm talking about today, or it could just be not as many of the Japan-feeling games that they used to have in the past. Those are the people who, of course, will be loving Astro right now. But no, their entire plan is to hit far beyond the immediate enthusiast audience. That audience does not matter. That's why we've not seen them yield in PSN and PC. The thing is, they feel like they have to. Their games are so expensive that they need to hit near 10 million sales for one of their big titles to even be worth making. The Insomniac League made this abundantly clear. Spider-Man 2 needed to sell 7.2 million copies at full price in order to break even. At full price. That's a game that's been out for almost a calendar year, and since then, it's been on sale just 2 times. And there is in fact a sale on right now, but it's a tricky one. It is a sale, you can get it cheaper, but the only thing on sale is the Digital Deluxe Edition. It's 28% off, $57.99 in the UK, so it is cheaper than the regular edition, but it still is pretty damn high. That's another part of their strategy. Do a sale, but only on the Digital Deluxe Edition, so they don't have to decrease the price all that much. Even take Ragnarok. Ragnarok released summer 2022, it's had 8 sales on PSN, and its deepest has only been down to $39.99, which is still a pretty hefty percentage of the original sale price. Now, their current strategy is to expand via film and television. It's a major thing. Herman Hulst has talked about it, and it worked incredibly well for The Last of Us. And if things had went right, it would be working for the Horizon television show that would be further along than it is right now. Basically, the director for that got fired this June, so they're undoubtedly pretty pissed off about that, but still, the strategy hasn't changed. And it reminds me of CD Projekt Red. They had a bit of a problem. The Witcher TV show, even though it's extremely mid, has Henry Cavill. It blew up interest, and when it did, Witcher 3 sales surged, but the game only cost a few quid, so they didn't really make as much money as they could have. So what I decided to do was look at the price history of Sony's most recent analog, which of course is The Last of Us. The Last of Us Part 2's deepest sale was down to $9.99 USD as recent as April 2023, and if you're a show viewer right at the end of Season 1, that would have been awesome. Soon after though, Last of Us Part 2 Remaster dropped. When it did, Part 2 went back to its default price of $39.99, and its sales only went down to $29.99, all while Part 2 Remaster was sitting happy at $49.99, with its deepest discount being $39.99. And that means that other than the base product RRP, this is exactly the pricing model that they are doing with Horizon. And that probably means they've got data to support this pricing model working. And well, if you want, you can go and buy The Last of Us Remastered, the PS4 near launch title, for $19.99, which of course is what it is in the PlayStation Hits collection. The whole point of their full remake is that the full remake, The Last of Us Part 1, sells for $69.99 right now, which is more than Part 2, and even on sale the Part 1 remake is $39.99. Now the reason why I went through all of this is because business has got many different facets. Now obviously, we are customers, we buy games, that's the bit that we care about, and in so many cases, we're used to buying games in Steam. Steam is one single marketplace, and it's an absolutely ginormous one with so many games, and that means that if you want to get visibility, you gotta hit the sales button. So we're used to sales happening way faster and way deeper than is normal on some other platforms. It's basically a race to the bottom. Sony, though, do not do that. As you can see today, they diligently work to keep their average sale price high. And there's another company who does it a lot more than Sony do, and that company is Nintendo. Nintendo are so confident that their games are so damn good and so damn unique that they just don't do deep sales at all. Now, obviously, a retailer can do whatever they want, but look at the eShop pricing. Tears of the Kingdom is $69.99. It has never been on sale in the eShop. It's always been that price. They've only discounted Super Mario Odyssey 5 times in the eShop since 2021, and even then, that's only been from its current price of $59.99, yeah, no default decrease in sale price, from $59.99 to $39.99. And then there's Smash Ultimate. It came out in 2018. It has shifted over 30 million copies, and on the eShop, it has never been discounted. Never. Conventional wisdom says that old games are less valuable. Nintendo disagrees, and they still sell millions of copies of their games. This is exactly what Sony wants, but it perhaps might even be more than what they want. It may also be what they need, because their games are so stupidly expensive. Just think of the Spider-Man example. So it's no wonder then that Sony's PS5 Pro has no disk drive. They want digital because that gives them full price control, and if you do buy physical, you will need to buy their upcharged $79.99 disk drive. They are just trying to play a different game to the rest, and this makes it clear. The Insomniac leak tells us that Spider-Man 2 was budgeted at $270 million, with a cost overrun taking it to around $300 million. And the thing is, they expect that to go up. Part of the leaks included slides from what appeared to be an internal postmortem, where Ted Price, Insomniac's CEO, had disturbing things to say, worrying things to say for the health of the industry. One slide read, "We have to make future AAA franchise games for $350 million or less." But worse, it continued saying this. In today's dollars, that's like making Spider-Man 2 for $215 million. Yeah, inflation's rough. Of course, it cost $300, so pretty disturbing. And assuming that these targets won't happen and they're talking about $350, well, I think we're going to get close to $400 million. I mean, there's a slide that projected $385 million for Spider-Man 3 and $305 million for Wolverine. So even with $120 million a game being chipped in from Marvel, those numbers are insane. Spider-Man 1 took 2 years and $100 million to develop. Peanuts compared to its sequel, and part of the leaked slide is just a brutal line that says, "Is 3x the investment in Spider-Man 2 evident to anyone who plays the game?" I think to most of us the answer would be some budget increase is evident, but not triple. Those are yesterday's numbers. Leave a comment. What do you think The Last of Us Part 3 will end up costing? You see, Naughty Dog have got a new fantasy IP to launch first. It'll probably fit the end-of-generation sort of swan song game that has actually kicked off many of Sony's biggest franchises. After that, for the PlayStation 6, they've got to do The Last of Us Part 3. That's something that will be holding down The Last of Us as a brand, as an IP, also the television show. So if that's $400 million, I certainly wouldn't be surprised. And if your games cost that much, if you need to sell $7.2 million at full price just to break even, and I suppose that's not even including payment processing costs, well, you know it's a high-risk game. But of course it is. What we see is Sony fighting where they are strongest. They're going for cultural dominance, something that Microsoft just does not have whatsoever. And that means that every Sony game has got to be an event. Those are the jewels in their crown, and ideally live services will keep them a little bit more healthy in between. They look at Nintendo. They see that Nintendo do not discount their games because they're goddamn Nintendo. You cannot get a Nintendo game elsewhere. They do not need to do a sale. You will buy Smash, and over 30 million of you have. Sony want the same. They want it to be so that you cannot get a game even close to The Last of Us Part 3 on the Microsoft console, or whatever the next Ghost title is after the one they've just revealed. That is what they are doing. They want it to be at the stage where Microsoft literally cannot compete, in the same way that nobody's able to compete with Nintendo. And if Microsoft's usual is anything to go by, Sony will crush them. But people will not be happy for it, because they will be paying more money. If you end up paying $79.99 for The Last of Us Part 3 on launch, I would not be surprised. But as they say, content is king. Cultural value is an important thing. It's a little touch of the meaning that we want from things, that we want from a television show that's fantastic or a game that's fantastic. Microsoft struggles to do that. Sony is able to do it, but at absurdly ballooning costs. Those costs probably won't fall to pieces, and that means Sony needs to innovate not just by pumping out games, but also by innovating on pricing strategy, which is exactly what we've just saw them do. And on the topic of price, even though there's been nothing but bad news, Ubisoft's stock just surged. You can watch the next video to find out why.